topics in this video, which we'll be discussing with respect to three-phase induction motor are torque equation, condition for maximum torque, torque slip characteristics, torque ratios, and associated numericals. So let us start with the first topic, that is torque equation of three-phase induction motor. This is a very important question from the VTO exam point of view. It is the most oftenly asked question. The torque produced in induction motor depends on three major factors. They are the first one being the part of rotating magnetic field which interacts with the rotor and is responsible for the production of induced EMF in rotor. So we know the magnetic field is represented in the form of phi or flux. So the first parameter on which the torque is dependent is the part of rotating magnetic field which is responsible for inducing the EMF in rotor. The second parameter is the magnitude of the rotor current in running condition. I2 is the rotor current at standstill, whereas the rotor current at running condition is represented as I2R. The third factor being the power factor of rotor in running condition. So the power factor is always represented by cos phi. With respect to rotor, it will be cos phi 2, whereas in running condition, the power factor of rotor will be cos phi 2R. So these are the three criteria on which the torque value majorly depends in case of three-phase induction motor. So taking this relation into consideration, we have expressed the equation 1 where the torque is dependent on the three parameters. One is the flux, other one is the magnitude of rotor current under running condition, third one being the rotor power factor in running condition. Consider this equation as 1. The flux which is produced by stator, that is nothing but the rotating magnetic field in the air gap, is produced by the stator, and that flux produced by stator is directly proportional to the stator voltage, that is E1. So let us say this flux is directly proportional to E1. Now we know most oftenly or generally induction motors are always compared with that of transformers. In transformer, transformation ratio is nothing but the ratio of the secondary voltage to that of primary voltage. So here, considering or applying the same concept for induction motor, the ratio of rotor turns to stator turns is what is referred to as transformation ratio, or in turn the rotor voltage to that of stator voltage is considered as transformation ratio. So E2 is the rotor EMF, E1 is the stator EMF. Now the transformation ratio is given by E2 by E1. So this E2 into K is nothing but E1. That is, E2 is given by K times E1, or this K, if we remove this equal sign and relate it through proportional relation, E2 will be directly proportional to E1. Therefore, we are replacing this E1 by E2 in the equation 2. So this flux will be dependent on E2. So E2, that is rotor induced EMF, is dependent on the flux. Let us take it as equation 4. Now the rotor current under running condition is given, I2R is given by E2R by Z2R, which is nothing but E2R is S times E2, whereas Z2R is root times R2 square plus S into X2 square. And this power factor cos phi 2R is given by R2 by Z2R, which is nothing but R2 by square root of R2 square plus S times X2 square. How we get these equations or relation is already discussed in the other video, where the topic is the effect of slip on rotor parameter. So if you want to know more about these equations, you can look for the video where the topic is the effect of slip on rotor parameters. So we have this general equation, that is where the torque is dependent on in equation 1, and we are using these relations, equation 4 and 5, and substituting for phi, I2R and cos phi 2R in equation 1. So substituting the equations, in torque equation 1, we get torque is directly proportional to E2 into S times E2 by square root of R2 square plus S X2 whole square. This represents the rotor current under running condition. The third parameter is the power factor of rotor under running condition, which is given by R2 by square root of R2 square plus S X2 whole square. Now simplifying this term, in the denominator we have both the common terms under root. So it is similar to root a into root a, which is nothing but a. So the entire term is written as it is without root. So in the denominator, we have r2 square plus sx2 the whole square. In the numerator, we have s into 2 times e2. So it is e2 square into r2. So the torque is directly proportional to these many parameters. So if we have to remove this proportional relation and introduce an equal sign, then we have to introduce a constant which is called as proportionality constant, represented as k. And this k is given by the formula 3 by 2 pi ns, where this ns represents the synchronous speed in rps, that is rotation per second. Ns, capital Ns is the synchronous speed in RPM. Converting RPM speed to RPS, we have to divide the RPM speed by 60. So this proportionality constant K is given by the formula 3 by 2 pi Ns. So the general torque equation is K into S E2 square R2 by R2 square plus S into X to the whole square, where the small ns is the synchronous speed in rotations per second. S represents the slip. E2 is the rotor induced EMF at standstill. R2 is the rotor resistance. X2 is the rotor reactance at standstill. So this equation is giving us the torque in terms of Newton meter in case of three-phase induction motor. Now this is the general equation using which the equations for torque with respect to the various conditions on the motor can be obtained. For example, during starting, we know the slip takes up its maximum value, that is 1. So by substituting S is equal to 1, the corresponding equation what we get will be the starting torque equation, just as shown here. So starting torque is K times, because S is 1, it is now E2 square R2 by R2 square plus X2 square. So this equation can be used to calculate the starting torque. So basically here, the one equation which you have to remember is this general equation. So by substituting the values with respect to the condition on the motor, we can obtain the corresponding torque equations. So this is the derivation for the torque equation of three-phase induction motor. Moving on to the second topic, that is condition for maximum torque. Here, this is a derivation where we are looking forward for the condition which gives us the maximum torque, or the condition at which the torque is going to be maximum. So here what we do is we have to consider the general torque equation, which is 3 by 2 pi ns, that is nothing but k times s e2 square r2 by r2 square plus sx to the whole square. So this equation is obtained from the derivation which we have derived previously. So now to obtain the condition for maximum torque, we have to differentiate this torque equation with respect to slip and equate it to 0. So d by ds of the torque equation and equate it to 0. Now here we have this in the form of u by v, that is we have to v into du minus u into dv by v square. That is the rule what we have to apply. That is nothing but denominator into differentiation of numerator minus numerator into differentiation of denominator. So that of the denominator square is nothing but the u by v rule for differentiation, equal to 0. In RHS we have 0. So because in RHS we have 0, whatever is the denominator, when we push it or cross multiply to the other hand side, it becomes 0. That is how the denominator gets eliminated. So differentiation of this term, k is a constant. We are differentiating this with respect to s. So apart from s, what other terms are there? It will be constant, and s, differentiation of s with respect to s is 1. So we have k e2 square r2 minus this entire term into differentiation of r2 is constant, so differentiation of constant is always 0, plus s square is nothing but 2 times s into x2 square. So remember, the only term which we will be differentiating here will be slip. No other terms will be differentiated. So now we get this equation multiplying the terms and looking for the common terms. Here grouping the common terms, and we get this where we have 2 times k s square e2 square r2 x2 square, whereas the other side we have only plus 1. So it is minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1, the entire term. So here again looking for the common factors, k e2 square r2 is common. So taking that out in this term, what is left behind is R2 square minus here S square into X2 square is left behind equal to 0. Now pushing this to the other side, it goes to the denominator. So 0 divided by anything will be 0. So we have R2 square minus S2 square into X2 square equal to 0. So in the next step, pushing this negative term to RHS, we have R2 square is equal to S square into X2 square. Or in the other words, S square is equal to R2 square by X2 square, which is equal to R2 by X2 the whole square. Because on both hand sides we have square, this can be also written as S by S is equal to R2 by X2. So this is the condition for maximum torque. That is, whenever the slip value is exactly equal to the ratio of the rotor resistance to that of rotor reactance at standstill, the torque will be maximum. And this slip at which we are getting the torque to be maximum is represented as Sm, which is given by R2 by X2. So this Sm is regarded as a slip corresponding to maximum torque, but it is never called as maximum slip. Why? Because whenever we say maximum slip, it is only during starting and that value is always equal to 1. So Sm is the slip corresponding to maximum torque. That is why it is given as Sm. So whenever the slip value is exactly equal to the ratio of the rotor resistance to that of rotor reactance at standstill, we get the torque to be maximum, and the slip corresponding to that maximum torque is called as Sm. And the torque for the maximum torque equation can be written as rewritten from the general equation as K into Sm T2 square R2 by R2 square plus Sm into X to the whole square. So the only difference what we have done here is we have substituted Sm in place of S, and then substituting the formula Sm is given by R2 by X2 and simplifying. So here x gets cancelled in the denominator, whereas in the numerator it is not getting cancelled. And taking out R2 square common from numerator and denominator, it gets cancelled. So what we are left behind is k times E2 square by 2 into x2. So this is what is left behind. So maximum torque can also be calculated by k E2 square by 2 times x2. So either you remember this formula or you remember this formula. Remembering this formula is more easier because this is general torque equation in which we have substituted Sm in place of S, and we know that Sm is given by R2 by X2. And for maximum torque, in order to obtain the torque maximum during starting, we know the value of slip during starting is 1. So to obtain the maximum torque at starting itself, Sm should be we know it is R2 by X2. So this should be equal to 1. So R2 should be exactly equal to X2. So whenever the rotor resistance is made same as that of the rotor reactance at standstill, we can obtain the torque value maximum at starting itself. So the torque is going to be maximum at starting of the motor. So this is about the condition for maximum torque. So remember, the condition for maximum torque is the slip should be exactly equal to the ratio of rotor resistance to that of the rotor reactance at standstill. And the slip what we get corresponding to the maximum torque is called as Sm. So that Sm is the slip corresponding to maximum torque. So by replacing S by Sm in the general torque equation, we get the equation for Tm as written here. The third topic is torque slip characteristics. This is also a very important topic to be known with respect to three-phase induction motor. So a curve obtained by plotting torque produced against the slip of induction motor is what is called as torque slip characteristics. So this slip varies from 1 to 0. So 1 is at starting, that is when n is equal to 0, and S is equal to 0 when your speed is exactly equal to synchronous speed. So a graph of torque with respect to slip is what is regarded as torque slip characteristics. So let us consider the general torque equation here, which is given by K times S E2 square R2 by R2 square plus S into X2 square. Now, if we remove this proportionality constant, the torque will be directly proportional to S E2 square R2 by this entire denominator. But if we maintain the supply constant, then E2 is also going to remain constant. So the only parameter on which the torque is now dependent is slip, resistance, and the reactance of standstill as indicated here. It is yes R2 by R2 square plus S into X to the whole square. Now we are just splitting this statistics into two regions for the purpose of ease, understanding the concept in a simpler way. So the first part is we'll assume the operating region where the slip value is low. So that is referred as low slip region. So in this region, the slip value is very small. So as the slip value is very small, this in the denominator, we have two terms. One is R2 square, other one is Sx2 whole square. So because the value of slip is small here, the entire term S into X2 again squared is also very, very small compared to that of the resistance R2 square. So because this value is much smaller compared to that of R2 square, this entire sum is more or less very close to R2 square value. So we will neglect this Sx2 the whole square term in the denominator. So what are we left with? It is T directly proportional to S R2. Numerator is untouched, it remains same. Divided by the only term in denominator is R2 square. Simplifying this further, we get S by R2. But the resistance of the winding remains constant. So once it is constant, the torque and slip relation here is torque is directly proportional to slip. So in low slip region, or when the value of slip is low, torque is directly proportional to slip. And because we have this directly proportional relation, the nature of the graph will be linear. The second region is the high slip region. That is when the speed is lesser, the slip value will be higher. So when the value of slip is higher, the operating region is considered as high slip region. So in this high slip region, because the value of S is higher here, in the denominator, the term S x to the whole square will be much higher than that of R2 square. That is, if we take the sum of R2 square plus S x to the whole square, it will be very close to S x to the whole square. That is in case of high slip region. So we are eliminating that term or neglecting the term R2 square in the denominator. So now torque is directly proportional to slip into R2 by S square into X2 square. Slip in the numerator gets cancelled with the slip in the denominator. So we are left with R2 by S into X2 square. Now, because these are constants, they are winding constants, resistances and reactances at standstill are constant. The relation between torque and slip will be 1 by S. So torque is now inversely proportional to slip. So in case of high slip region, the torque is inversely proportional to slip, and the nature of the curve for this high slip region will be rectangular hyperbola. Now, there are two parts for torque slip characteristics. One is where your torque is directly proportional to slip at low slip region. We have straight line, and that is regarded as stable operating region. And the second part, that is high slip region, where torque is inversely proportional to slip. The nature of the curve is hyperbola, and that region is referred as unstable region of operation. We will see why it is stable or unstable. Now, in case of high slip region, when the load increases, by nature we know where any motor we load it, the speed will decrease. So once the speed decreases, the slip increases because slip is given by ns minus n by ns. Synchronous speed is going to remain constant. So as the speed n varies, slip value varies. So the numerator ns minus n will now increase because the value of n has decreased. So as a result, the slip also increases. But in high slip region, we have the relation between torque and slip as inversely proportional. Because the slip is increasing here, according to this relation, the torque will decrease. If the torque decreases, the slip will further increase. So as the torque goes on decreasing, the speed, torque and speed are directly proportional because this force which is driving the load is nothing but the in the form of speed. So as torque decreases, speed also decreases, and this further leads to the increase in slip, and this keeps on repeating as and eventually the motor comes to standstill. Hence, high slip region is referred to as unstable region of operation because there is inversely proportional relation between torque and slip. Whereas in low slip region, say if the load increase, speed decreases and slip will increase. If slip increases, the torque also increases. Why? Because the torque and slip are directly proportional. So according to the load requirement, torque has to be developed. So here torque is increasing with respect to the increase in load. So this occurs till the S value is equal to Sm, at which your torque will be the maximum torque. Further, if the load is increased, then it shifts to unstable condition and the motor will come to standstill. That is because the maximum torque is called as breakdown torque or the pull out torque. If the value of torque exceeds this value, the motor comes to standstill. That is why it is referred to as breakdown torque. So in low slip region, because of directly proportional relation, as load increases, the slip decreases. As load increases, the slip increases, and torque also increases, which is matching which is compatible with the load change. Whereas in high slip region, if the torque load increases, the slip is increasing while the torque is decreasing, which is not compatible with respect to the load change. So wherever we have high slip region, that is regarded as unstable region of operation, where we have torque inversely proportional to slip and the nature of curve is hyperbolic. Whereas in low slip region, here the slip is directly proportional to torque, or torque and slip are directly proportional to each other, is regarded as stable operating region, and the nature of the graph is straight line. So this is the torque slip characteristics of induction motor. Slip value varying from S is equal to 0 to 1. This is at starting. So here this torque corresponds to the value during starting. So it is the starting torque, and this is the maximum torque. When S is equal to Sm, we get the torque to be maximum. So AB represents the linear curve, that is stable operating region. PC is representing the hyperbolic nature, where it is unstable operating region. So where we have low slip region, there we have linear curve and the operation is said to be stable. Where the slip value is getting higher, there we have unstable operation and the nature of the curve is hyperbolic. So this is with respect to speed torque characteristics. This was the third topic. Moving on to the fourth topic. Fourth topic is regarding to the ratios. We have to discuss the various torque ratios. So far we have, what are the various torques we know? The full load torque, maximum torque, and starting torque. So we have three different torques here. We are going to just obtain the relation between these torque. The first one is full load torque with respect to maximum torque. So for this, let us consider the general torque equation, where T is K S E2 square R2 by R2 square plus S X2 the whole square. Just remove the proportionality constant. So torque will be directly proportional to the remaining term other than K. So first we will consider the full load torque. At full load, let us represent the slip as SFL and the torque will be TFL. So replacing S by SFL, we get the torque, full load torque, that is TFL. Now this is the equation with respect to full load. For maximum torque, we know S is equal to Sm. So when S is equal to Sm, we get maximum torque Tm. So substituting for S as Sm, we get the equation 2, that is nothing but the maximum torque equation. Now taking the ratio, we are looking for the ratio of full load to maximum torque. So equation 1 to that of equation 2, considering the equations there and simplifying, we get SFL by Sm into R2 square plus Sm x2 whole square by R2 square plus SFL x2 the whole square. E2 square R2 both on numerator and denominator get cancelled. So further in this term, we are taking, or we are multiplying or substituting for this Sm. Sm is R2 by x2. So R2 by x2 when substituted, x2 in the numerator and denominator gets cancelled, leaving behind the R2 square. So in the numerator we have 2 R2 square, denominator remains as it is. So now we have SFL by SF into 2 R2 square by R2 square plus SFL x to the whole square. Now let us divide both numerator and denominator by x2. So R2 square by x2 square. Here also SFL x2 whole square by x2 square, and here r2 square by x2 square. So dividing both numerator and denominator by x2 square. So we know anyways R2 by X2 the whole square is nothing but Sm square. So replacing that by Sm, here also we get the maximum slip Sm. Here the reactance term gets cancelled. So in the denominator we have Sm square plus Sfl square. So that is the ratio of full load torque to maximum torque is 2 times full load slip to maximum slip to that of Sm square plus Sfl square. So if you have to find out the ratios, if you remember this equation directly, the full load torque with respect to the maximum torque or the maximum torque in terms of full load torque can be determined. This was the first torque ratio that was between the full load torque and maximum torque. The second torque ratio is between the starting torque and maximum torque. We already know what is the maximum torque equation. By replacing S by Sm in the general torque equation, we get the maximum torque equation, which is written here in equation 2. For starting torque equation, we have to replace S by its value, that is 1 during starting. So S value gets eliminated here. Then we get the equation 1 for starting torque. Taking the ratio starting torque to that of maximum torque, E2 square by R2 in both numerator and denominator gets cancelled, and we are left with R2 square plus Sm square X2 square in the numerator by Sm into R2 square plus X2 square. Now both numerator and denominator is divided by X2 square term. So in doing so, in the numerator we have R2 square by X2 square plus Sm square into X2 square by X2 square divided by Sm into here R2 by X2 the whole square into Sm X2 square by X2 square. So they get cancelled and get simplified as shown here. R2 square by X2 square is Sm square. So Sm square plus Sm square is 2 times Sm, and in the denominator we have Sm into Sm plus 1. So 1 Sm in the numerator and Sm in the denominator gets cancelled, giving us 2 Sm by Sm square plus 1. So this is the equation which gives us the starting torque to that of the maximum torque ratio. So this is the torque ratio. Let us see the problems with respect to torque ratio. So here the problem is given as a 746 kilowatt 3-phase 50 hertz 16 pole induction motor has a rotor impedance of 0.02 plus J is 0.15 at standstill. So 0.02 is R2, whereas 0.15 ohms is nothing but the reactance X2, and it is specified as it is at standstill. So there are R2 and X2 values. Frequency is mentioned as 50 hertz, number of poles is 16. The full load torque is obtained at the speed equal to 360 rpm. So that speed which is corresponding to full load torque, let us consider as the full load speed, which is 360 rpm. Given this, the first parameter what he wants us to calculate is the speed at which the maximum torque is occurring. So if we have to calculate speed, we should be knowing the slip. So the slip corresponding to maximum torque, we call it as the Sm. So what is Sm? Sm is given by R2 by X2. So R2, X2 value is given, substitute and calculate what is the maximum value, maximum torque slip value. So that is 0.133. Now to calculate speed, motor speed is given by Ns into 1 minus Sm. Ns is given by 120 F by P. So 120 into 50 by 16. This is taken as per the data given. We get the synchronous speed as 375 rpm. So substituting all these values and calculating the speed corresponding to the maximum torque, it is 325 rpm. That was the first parameter. The second parameter is we have to calculate the ratio of maximum torque to full load torque. So it can be solved in two ways. One is you remember the equation which gives us the ratio of maximum torque to full load torque, which we have just discussed in the previous derivation. If not, you can calculate the maximum torque value separately by taking the value of S as Sm and full load torque value separately by taking the value of slip separately. So here, if we take the equation directly, it is Sfl square plus Sm by 2 times Sfl into Sm. So here we do not know the full load slip value, that can be calculated as Ns minus NFL, that is synchronous speed minus the full load speed by that of the synchronous speed gives us the slip corresponding to full load. So which we have already calculated known here. So substitute and calculate the full load slip. It is 0.04. So substituting all those values, we get the ratio as 1.816. That is, the maximum torque is 1.8 times that of the full load torque. The third part is the external resistance per phase to be inserted in the rotor circuit to get the maximum torque at starting itself. So now at maximum torque, we know S is equal to Sm, and if we want to achieve this at starting itself, then this Sm value should be made equal to 1. So we know Sm is R2 by X2, which is equal to 1. So R2 should be made equal to X2. Already the value of R2 is given as 0.15. So the reactance value is given as reactance value is given as 0.15. So we should make this R2 exactly equal to X2. So that is 0.15. So the value of resistance what is there as of now is 0.02. But what we require is 0.15. So if we take the difference, the remaining 0.13 ohms is the resistance which has to be externally added in each phase of the rotor circuit in order to obtain the maximum torque at starting condition. This was the problem with respect to torque ratios. Let us also see few problems with respect to torque in case of three-phase induction motors. So the problem is a 400 volt, 4-pole, three-phase, 50 hertz star connected induction motor has rotor resistance and reactance per phase value equal to 0.01 and zero point 0.1 respectively. So 0.01 is the rotor resistance R2, whereas 0.1 is the rotor reactance X2. Frequency is 50 hertz, number of poles P is 4, and this is the supply voltage line value, that is 400 volts. Given this, he wants us to calculate various parameters. The first one is the starting torque. So always remember what we are dealing here, or the values of resistance and reactance, is always with respect to phase. So if you are using the voltage, you have to convert the value of given in terms of line into phase. So the first step should be to convert this given stator line voltage into phase voltage. That is, divide the line voltage by √3, you get the phase voltage. And here one more data is given, that is, assume the ratio of stator turns to rotor turns as 4. So the stator turns to that of rotor turns is equal to 4. So that is nothing but if I take E1 phase to that of E2 phase ratio, that is the voltage corresponding to stator to that of the voltage corresponding to rotor, I should be getting the same value, that is 4. So E1 is already known here, E2 is unknown. So E2 can be calculated by E1 by 4. So the E2 phase, that is the rotor induced EMF per phase value is 57.73 volts. With this, the first one is the starting torque to be determined. We know at starting S is equal to 1. So use the general torque equation to calculate the value of proportionality constant K, which is given by 3 pi 2 pi Ns. Ns is nothing but capital Ns by 60. So capital Ns is given by 120 F by P. F and P values are already given. So Ns will be 1500. 1500 by 60 will be small ns. So the value of K will be 0.019. Take that value, S is 1. E2 should be the per phase value, which we have already calculated here, 57.73 square, into R2 is given as 0.01 divided by 0.01 whole square plus 0.1 square. S is 1. So if you calculate this, the value of torque, what you'll be getting during starting will be 62.69 Newton meter. Next, the second parameter which is asked to calculate is slip at maximum torque. So we know the slip at maximum torque is nothing but Sm, which is given by R2 by X2. So R2, X2, both the values are given. When you take the ratio, you get the value of slip corresponding to maximum torque as 0.1, which is otherwise expressed in percentage as 10%. The third parameter which he wants to calculate is the speed at which the maximum torque is occurring. So the speed corresponding to maximum torque is given by ns into 1 minus Sm, that is the slip value corresponding to maximum torque. So ns is going to remain same for a given machine, which is 1500 into 1 minus 0.1, that is 1350 rpm. So this is the speed of the induction motor at which the torque is going to be maximum. The fourth value which he wants us to calculate is the maximum torque value. So in general equation of torque, replace S by Sm, wherein the value of Sm is already known. And remember, we are not taking the percentage value. We should always substitute the fractional value. So Sm value while substituting will be always 0.1. So substitute, all the values are known, substitute and simplify, you get the maximum torque value as 318.27 Newton meter. Next, the fifth parameter which has to be calculated is the full load torque. Now by replacing the value of S by SFL, we get the value of full load torque. But is the value of full load slip given? Full load slip is given in the question here as 4%. But when you're substituting in the formula, you have to take it as 0.04, that is 4 divided by 100. So substituting all the given values, full load torque is 219.5. So you can just observe the ratio here itself. The maximum torque is much higher than that of the full load torque. So here we have calculated three torque values. One is the starting torque, which is 62.69 Newton meter. The other one is the maximum torque, which is 318.27, and the full load torque, which is 290.50 Newton meter. So just if we know what is the general torque equation, and if we are aware of how this value of slip changes with respect to the various other conditions, load conditions or maximum torque conditions, then we can obtain the torque value at any given condition. There is one more problem given here. It is a 440 volt. That is again line value is given E1 line. Frequency is 50 hertz. Number of poles is 4, and has a full load speed. Sorry, here it cannot be seen. This full load speed is 1425 RPM. The rotor has an impedance of 0.4 plus J4 ohm per phase. That is, this is the resistance R2 0.04 ohms and X2 is 4 ohms. And he has given rotor to stator turn ratio as 0.8. Now you should carefully understand. Now the ratio is rotor to stator. So rotor to stator means now it is E2 by E1. So it is the same sort of simplification what we have discussed earlier. E1 value which is given in line has to be converted into phase by dividing it by root 3 and substitute in this relation and find out what is E2 phase. We should always use the per phase value of E2 only in the simplification. So what we have to calculate here, first one is the full load torque. So to calculate full load torque, we should be knowing the full load slip value. So to calculate full load slip, we should be knowing what is the full load speed. So full load speed is already given. Calculate what is synchronous speed by using 120 F by P. So you get 1500 RPM minus 1425 by 1500. The value of slip corresponding to full load can be obtained, that is 0.05. Then also determine the proportionality constant value 3 by 2 pi ns by using this formula and substitute in the above equation, obtain the full load torque value, which is 78.87 Newton meter for this given induction motor. That was the first parameter which was supposed to be calculated. The second one is the full load copper loss. We know copper loss is given by I square R. So here with respect to rotor, it is I2 square R2. So we require full load current here. So when you are calculating full load current, it is nothing but I2R, which is given by E2R by Z into Z2R. So E2R is slip times E2. So we want corresponding to full load. So it is SFL E2. And only by changing the value of slip to full load slip, we get the values corresponding or the current value corresponding to full load condition. So the full load current is 22.72 amperes. Square this and multiply with the resistance value, you get the copper loss in one phase. So if you want the total copper loss, it is thrice this copper loss per phase, which is 619.47 watts. The third component to be calculated is the maximum torque and the speed at which it is occurring. So to calculate the maximum torque, we should be knowing the value of Sm first. So Sm you calculate by using R2 by X2, which is 0.1. So substitute that value here and calculate what is Tm. So Tm is 98.59. Full load torque is 78, whereas the maximum torque is 98. So speed corresponding to this maximum torque can be calculated by using formula Ns into 1 minus Sm. So here substituting the values, the speed corresponding to the maximum torque is 1350 RPM. So that is the third component. The fourth component to be calculated is the starting current. So starting current or current during starting, we represent it as I2. This is with respect to rotor. So I2R is the current at running condition, whereas I2 is the current at starting. which is given by E2 by Z2. E2 should be in phase, so value is known, substitute. Z2 is nothing but square root of R2 square plus X2. Substitute that, so the starting current value will be 50 amperes. So this is how the problems with respect to the torque equations and torque ratios with of three-phase induction motors has to be solved. So far we have discussed the torque equation derivation, condition for maximum torque, torque slip characteristic, torque ratios, and numericals associated to torque. So far we have discussed the torque equation derivation, condition for maximum torque, torque slip characteristic, torque ratios, and numericals associated to torque.